Hello all and welcome, and I am the MGTOW philosopher, and in this video I'd like to talk about why men make excuses for women and why it has to stop. Now first of all, let me just say that women are not children, though they may act like it sometimes, they're not. And did you men out there ever stop to think that women act the way they do, at least in part, because we enable them to? Now I know some of you will automatically be on the defensive as if I'm attacking and blaming men. Well, I'm not attacking men. But I am blaming men to a certain extent. However, attacking, no. I'm simply trying to help, so hear me out, okay? Now, women have, for the entirety of human history, been protected by men. They've never had to stand on their own 2 feet, and they still don't have to. And until very recently in human history, men were largely responsible for the actions of their women. I mean, really, is it any wonder that they're so immature and childlike in nature? Is it any wonder they're unable to take responsibility for their own actions? I mean, they've never had to. Even today, they don't have to. And let us not forget to talk about female nature. You know, I hear this term used more or less all the time by MGTOW guys. It isn't her fault. It's female nature. When do we ever say this about men's actions? If some guy ass rapes a woman, we don't say it's male nature to try and minimize his actions. Yet we give women this partial, if not full, get-out-of-jail-free card when we say that they're not accountable for their actions because it's just their natures. And that's what we're doing, at least to a certain degree, when we chalk it all up to female nature. Because we are blaming their actions on some kind of biological imperative that somehow instructs them to act upon their feelings, which thereby makes them less culpable for their actions. Yet, would we ever give a man a free pass for violent acts such as rape or murder by saying something like, it isn't his fault, it's just male nature, it's in their nature to be violent? Why do we hold men to such a high standard, but not women? Now, you must ask yourself what effect it has on women when you seek to excuse and minimize their actions. Well, here's the effects it has. Number one, you're telling a woman that in your mind, she's unable to control herself. You're telling her that she's less stable mentally and emotionally. And you're sending a message to her that you expect less of her in regards to controlling herself than you do of men. Now, number two, you're telling her that it's in her nature to have no control over how she acts. Hence, she's in no way responsible for her actions. You're telling her that lacking control of her actions is part and parcel of what it means to be a woman. If she knows that you believe this, she'll use that to her advantage. Number three, she can do whatever she wants. By telling women they are emotionally unstable creatures who can't control their actions, you free them to indulge in their own worst emotions without needing to worry about consequences. And of course, they embrace this, as would anyone. Who wouldn't love to do whatever they wanted without consequences? Number four, once the majority of men stop holding women accountable for their actions, women will run wild and take over, which is exactly what's happened. They can literally do whatever they want and suffer no backlash. They can attack, beat up, even kill, often with little or no consequence. Worse yet, they can knight certain men as proxy weapons who will then serve those women and get the same kinds of protections that women get, as these men will be representing the cause of women, which gets them a free pass, just like women get a free pass. Just take a look at the case of the crazy broad I talked about in my prior video entitled Crazy Lady Bashes Baby Gets Zero Jail Time, named Lorian Norman. You can find the link in the video description. Now, the judge in this case, a man, clearly believed, as most men do, that as a woman she had no license or agency, so she wasn't accountable. Like him, most men believe that women lack the fundamental self-control to rein in their emotions. So if they act out and do something bad, our natural inclination, because of this belief, is to make excuses for them instead of punishing them. Oh, she had a hard life, or oh, she was drunk and going through a rough divorce, or there was a lot of acrimony between the two of them, so you can understand why she would be angry. I mean, men are always making excuses like this for women. But what if this belief that women act out the way they do because it's simply in their nature, because they're just so childish and lacking in self-control because of how emotional they are, is to a certain extent bullshit? What if female nature and the belief that women lack self-control because they're too emotional is something that we men have to a certain extent fostered and enabled? Okay, I know. Women are not as smart and mature as men. This is an obvious fact, and it's scientific as well. So I'm not arguing that women are equal to men in the agency they possess. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that even a kid who's been raised well, taught the right lessons, and taught that there are consequences to their actions will behave. Even a very young kid will in most cases behave themselves if he or she knows there will be consequences to their actions. However, if you raise a kid and teach them that they're never, ever responsible for their actions and just shrug your shoulders, roll your eyes, and say, female nature, every time they act badly, then aren't you just setting yourself up for trouble down the road? My point is that while immature minds will still fuck up and lead people to make bad choices, they'll make a hell of a lot more bad choices when there's no consequences for their actions. And by the way, that goes for most people. I mean, unless you're a moral angel, if you have no consequences for your bad actions and everyone in your culture is bending over backwards to excuse certain people's bad deeds, then some people are just going to take advantage. Some people are just going to do whatever the hell they want. But to say they lack the ability to control themselves, I don't agree with that. Yet many a man still does believe that. And clearly the male judge who sentenced the baby basher Lorian Norman believed that when he sentenced her to 0 jail time for nearly killing her kid and levied a measly $500 fine against her. You know what? I firmly believe that the whole women can't control their emotions and their actions can be blamed on female nature, not directly on them, narrative to be utter horseshit. You know, women are simply spoiled bullies. That's all they are. And they've been spoiled by both men and women. And holding to the female nature argument simply empowers women to act more brazen and out of control, not less. Now, I know this argument is going to ruffle the feathers of some of my fellow MGTOW men out there, as many of you like to view women as very, very low down on the logic and reason scale. And in large part, they do possess less logic and reasoning capabilities than men. I don't deny that. They're also slightly less intelligent, around 4 to 5 IQ points on average. I don't deny that either. What I do deny is that women's bad behavior all comes down to female nature, a nature they supposedly cannot control because of vagina, too emotional. This is just another instance of vagina being a get-out-of-jail-free card for women and men being the ones to give it to them. And guys, you're playing right into their hands when you say these kind of things, when you minimize and then deflect responsibility for their actions from them onto their natures instead. Women just love it when guys do that, as it gets them off the hook and allows them to continue bullying everyone so they can continue to get their way. Take the case of Anjali Ramkissoon as a perfect example of what I'm talking about. She was a 30-year-old doctor back in early 2016 who attacked an Uber driver because he didn't want to give her a ride. She physically assaulted him, trashed the inside of his car, destroyed a whole bunch of his personal property, and wasn't even arrested. She did lose her job as a doctor at her hospital, but so what? That's small consolation to the Uber driver who actually could have had her arrested, but didn't because he felt sorry for her, so he let her go. And of course we know why. Check the video out. You'll find a link in the description. Yeah, that's right. She's got a nice ass and is attractive, hence pussy pass. Yeah, the Uber driver was reimbursed for his property, but so what? What about the trauma of this event? Oh, no one cares about that. Oh no, people were only concerned about her and her future. No one cared about the guy whose shit was destroyed and who she assaulted. Oh no, people only cared about the not-so-young woman who was proving my point for me while the whole assault was going on, as she shouted, "Yeah, I'm assaulting you. I'm only 5 feet tall and 100 pounds. Essentially meaning, don't take me seriously and ignore the severity of what I'm doing because I'm small and weak. See what I mean, guys? Women know full well what they're doing and why they can do it. By the way, I should add a few things that will open your eyes about the real extent that female nature supposedly has to control women's actions, as well as how much license and reason they actually possess. So when the cops finally did arrive on the scene, something you won't find in the original video, she went from being a crazy, rabid bitch trying to knee the driver in the balls and destroying the inside of his car to being calm, placid, and demure. sound like someone who has no license or reason to you? If that were the case, wouldn't she have continued to rage, regardless of the cops being there? Let me tell you something, gentlemen. Women act out of control because they can, because we men allow them to. Now, that's not to say that they're not more emotional or less reasonable on average than us. They are, but not to the extent that modern men have been led to believe. No, they're fully capable of controlling themselves when they have to. But, like spoiled children who are used to always getting their way, they act out. But they do possess the agency to flip the script and become 100% in control, meaning when they know there's going to be actual consequences to their actions if they don't. And when you men out there give them a pass with the usual female nature banter, you're essentially minimizing their responsibility and thereby empowering them to continue to act badly by reinforcing that belief. Like that judge did when he gave Lorian Norman, the baby basher, a free pass to beat up more babies because he, at least in part, saw her as someone with less license and agency than a man. So, in turn, he viewed her as less responsible. Yeah, it didn't hurt that she was good-looking, and being small and petite was also a plus, as those factors played into his biological imperative to protect her. But trust me when I tell you, his belief that she as a woman lacked the ability to control herself to the extent of a man played a key role in his decision to give her 0 jail time. Jail time that would have done wonders to teach her that there are consequences for her actions. Of course, now she's learned the exact opposite lesson, and I have no doubt that we will very soon hear about her in the headlines yet again. And the same goes for Anjali Ramkissoon, the crazy doctor who attacked the Uber driver and trashed his car. She would have been well served by some jail time. Yet, when given the option of pressing charges, the Uber driver, who she attacked and kneed in the balls, declined to press charges. Why? Because she was a good-looking chick who was now all of a sudden acting calm, demure, and apologetic, now that she was in the presence of cops. Yeah, just 2 minutes earlier, she had been hitting the Uber driver and trashing his car and destroying his shit. But he just couldn't bring himself to take her and her actions seriously enough to press charges. Just like when you're on the subway, for example, and some small kids are acting badly and causing a ruckus, but it's just hard to take them seriously and muster enough anger to admonish them or be very annoyed by them. You see where I'm going with this, guys? She was out of control when she was able to be out of control. And the minute possible consequences showed up, she became as harmless as a kitten. That sounds a lot like license, agency, and reason to me. That sure sounds a lot like self-control. And keep in mind that she was supposed to be drunk as well. Yet even though she was supposedly drunk, as if that's an excuse, she was still able to calm herself down immediately and act the required part so as to get herself out of trouble when the cops showed up. That doesn't sound like someone who's out of control and in thrall to their uncontrollable nature. That sounds like someone who is very, very much in control of themselves and simply acts badly because they can, because they choose to, because they've never had to face consequences for their actions. No, someone who lacked agency or reason would have continued trashing the car even after the arrival of cops on the scene. However, she didn't. In fact, she did a complete 180. All of this tells me that she, as well as most women, are well able to control themselves if they so choose, and that they know right from wrong. They are in no way enthralled to their emotions and their supposed uber-powerful female natures. Oh, please. That's a bunch of horseshit that gives them a pussy pass. Women simply do what they want, when they want, and when they can't, they don't. That they're immature is evidenced by this so-called doctor's behavior. Yeah, she was immature, and no doubt still is. And yes, she acted childishly. Yes, she was acting stupid, because she knew she could, because there was nothing there stopping her. You see, she learned long ago that men make excuses for women, and even go out of their way to white knight and protect women from the consequences of women's own bad actions. And like childish minds tend to do, they'll continue to push the envelope until there are consequences for their actions. What shocks me is that it took 30 years for this girl to suffer any real consequences, i.e. losing her job, that would put a stop to her bad behavior. But that's the fault of the country she lives in, and of the people living in it for viewing her as a creature without license or agency and always giving her a pass up until now. Oh yeah, she is responsible for her actions. I'm not giving her a pass here, nor am I giving women in general a pass. No, what I'm saying is that, yes, they are wholly responsible for their actions, but it's important to know what has fostered and enabled such behavior to become acceptable to the point where it's destroying the West, so that we don't continue along this destructive path. In truth, she was taught to be that way. Taught by men who wanted to protect her simply because she's a woman. Taught by men that men will protect her even when she's wrong because they hope they'll be able to bang her. She was even taught to be this way by guys like us, MGTOW guys, who dismiss her as a creature without agency, reason, or self-control, thereby empowering her to be a creature without reason, agency, or self-control, who will in turn suffer no consequences for her actions because of this viewpoint. Same goes for the crazy lady, Lorian Norman, who nearly killed her kid. The same goes for all women, by the way. We, as men, need to stop making excuses for them. They may not have as strong a grasp of logic and reason as we men do, but let's not let them off the hook so easily for their horrible behavior by saying it's all down to their juvenile minds and lack of emotional control, i.e., female nature. To do so merely reinforces this dangerous belief and only empowers women further to act on their negative emotions and to act badly. I personally believe that women are 100% capable of controlling themselves, and they know right from wrong. The problem is us men, even MGTOW men, being dismissive of their ability to control themselves and do what is right. Now, some men have an urge to protect women. Some men just want the pussy. Some men view women as so inferior that they lack license or agency, and some men view women as weak and helpless. But it's all men that enable women to act the way they do. We as men need to recognize that women have license, they have agency, they have reason, and they use these things when it suits their purposes. Don't fall for this female nature bullshit, a narrative that seems tailor-made to let women off the hook for their bullying and constant bad behavior. A narrative that pretty much feeds into what men already think and feel about women. A narrative that plays to men's natures, which is probably the point, I might add. They can do what they want. They get away with almost anything. They get just about anything they want. And even in the worst circumstances, they rarely have to suffer any real consequences for their actions. And yet, some of you guys out there still believe women are oppressed and have it hard? Please. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.